Hey everybody, it's Bust with Battles with Bust number 403, and today we're going to be doing battle with Lucian Taric. And so, before we talk about the deck, before the battles begin, spoiler season is here. Nidalee was released yesterday for me, 2 days ago for you. That's who we're going to be talking about today, and so we'll give her a bit of the spotlight before we talk about the Lucian Taric deck. So, to switch over to Nidalee, if you haven't seen her up to this point, I'm going to keep the entire big picture up here because there's a lot of aspects that kind of go on with Nidalee, but the entirety of her kit, very strong, very excited to see this champion in action. Would not be surprised whatsoever to see Nidalee be the kind of showcase, the Samira of the set, as you will, as we proceed through the Heart of the Huntress. And so, Nidalee, very easy to make kind of a direct comparison to Sivir. Both have this 4 cost, both have the 5-3 stat line, both have quick attack, both have a level up ability that you get just naturally progressing throughout the game. So Sivir just needs you to deal damage, Nidalee just needs you to play cards. And so, just from the general, is this a good deal? Is this a decent unit kind of standpoint? Nidalee really kind of checks off all the boxes, especially as a lot of the kind of gameplay sequences you see out of Shurima involve vulnerables. And so there's things like this Bushwhack Trap, which we'll probably never play, that pass out vulnerables, but even more so, we have cards like the All-Terrain Trooper down here, things like Rockhopper, Exhaust, Ruthless Predator, all passing out vulnerables, which play fantastically into this quick attack theme. And so just out the gates, Nidalee very strong there. Then on her flip, she picks up Overwhelm and generates a Javelin Toss if she gets a Nexus Strike. Another very strong piece of combat synergy. The thing that we always run into with these champions, especially as they go up in cost, is it actually able to deal damage? And so does it have Overwhelm? Does it have Elusive? Does it do something with rallies? Does it even have big impact or something? Whatever, you have to have some kind of way to deal damage to the Nexus, and Nidalee more than capable of doing that on her flip side with the Overwhelm, but then also generating the Javelin Toss. Javelin Toss, very similar to Lux's Final Spark. It deals 4 damage to an enemy, doesn't have Overwhelm, but if the opponent doesn't have any units, it gets to deal 4 directly to the Nugget. And so, very powerful and strong just from a just kind of general standpoint, a stat efficiency standpoint, would I play this if it was a basic unit kind of standpoint. So quite strong there. Things continue on with her. She does pick up Prowl as her flip spell, which was, of course, quite reminiscent of Samira's All Out, a card that needed to be nerfed. I'm very interested to see how strong Prowl turns out to be, giving a normal unit +1 attack, which, hey, Nidalee doesn't care so much about the toughness given that she has quick attack, and then it gives the Shadows in the Brush +2/+2. My understanding with the Shadows in the Brush, that is the face-down transforming kind of card that you get from these ambush units, is that if you play the +2/+2 on it and then transform it, the +2/+2 maintains onto the flipped side. And so if we had a face down Nidalee, we played the Prowl on her, she would get the +2/+2. Then if we transformed her, she would be a 7/5. She wouldn't lose out on those stats during the transform. And so very powerful kit. The quick attack, the stats, the powerful flip, the card generation and the Javelin Toss, the removal, just everything on and on and on and on. But the kind of couple of points I did want to stop and talk about with Nidalee are twofold. Number one is the ambush mechanic. One of the things I haven't talked about with ambush is the ability to use these cards off of spell mana. And so I'm very curious to see how some of the larger ambushes go, like the Towering Parfait that we have here with Ambush 5, in the sense that you can spend that spell mana on it, right? So typically spending 5 regular mana on this ambush means we couldn't get the Towering Parfait onto the board until turn 5, but with the 3 banked up spell mana, we can get this gigantic unit flipped and attacking and ready on turn 3 or turn 4. And so very powerful kind of ability having ambush come off of spell mana. I think one of the common sequences that we'll see with Nidalee is, given that she is a ambush 2, is that on turn 1, we just don't play anything. That's standard. We bank up that spell mana. On turn 2, we play Nidalee face down. So we have the Shadows in the Brush on the board. Then on turn 3, we're going to find ourselves just casting the all-terrain trooper as normal, giving the opposing unit vulnerable, or, I mean, maybe we do find ourselves playing Bushwhack Trap, right? Just as a way to put that vulnerable on the board. Now that we have the one regular mana and the one spell mana, we can ambush the Nidalee, target down that vulnerable unit, and have a very strong combat that way. And so I'm curious to see how these kind of things go. The usage of spell mana in terms of activating the ambushes. This was something that you most certainly didn't see on morph units back in the day with Magic. And so lots of interesting and powerful things potentially there. And so, otherwise with Nidalee, though, I'm really kind of interested in seeing how she turns out. The problem that we had with Sivir was that the Shurima cards were just all terrible, right? And so the most common usage that we would see out of Sivir would be in a deck, say, like Action Sivir, which is, you know, 2 Shurima champions, but all of the cards in the deck were actually Demacia cards. And so we'd be playing Action, you'd be playing Sivir, you'd be playing 2 copies of the Absolver, but the Shurima cards after that were also terrible. You just played all the good Demacia units and some rallies and stuff and moved on from there. And so I think it will be interesting to see if we can't get some kind of expansion into Shurima to have the rest of these cards actually be useful and interactive, have Nidalee not just be a big stat cannon and just a big, really efficient unit on her own, and see if some of these other synergies come in. But, I mean, she does have a lot really going for her. She has the cat keyword. No idea what that's actually going to amount to. If we want to start playing the cat ambushes that copies all of your cats and makes attacks, or however that card in the variety set went, you know, there's something potentially there. A lot of these summon themes are very easy to pull off if you want to look down towards the Paka Cub, right? If we have, say, a flipped Nidalee on the board, we play the Paka Cub, that's 1. We transform it, that's 2. We attack with the Cub to the left of Nidalee, it gets the Nexus Strike, summons the Protector, that's 3. It's very easy to get these kind of flips and chains of Nidalee seeing the summons and then transforms going, and so she should very actively be in that big overwhelm panther form, cat form, cheetah form, whatever it was that big one is. She had a cheetah form where she ran around. Who am I thinking of? She didn't have cheetah form. That's somebody else, right? It's slipping my mind. It wasn't Udyr. I don't know. She transforms into, is it a panther? I don't know. It's been too long since my days of League, but we'll call this thing a panther for the remainder of the video. But I think she has a lot of kind of interesting things going in that space as well. Definitely a lot of potential for her to have strong things happen that way. And what I was really kind of interested in with her as well, as you do kind of go back to that Action Sivir space, there were the 2 things that were really powerful there. Deploying vulnerables and getting quick attack challenges, that is always a very strong thing. But as we're currently in this space of Eternal, I'm really curious about the ease of Nidalee flipping, and then that activating other cards like the Absolver. And so all the cards that exist now that give you some kind of bonus if you've leveled up a champion. Nidalee being a very easy champion to level up, playing into some of those themes as well. So very curious, very strong, lots of power tied into Nidalee. Very excited to see how these kind of combat-oriented champions can pan out, because I think she has a lot of strength there. But in terms of the other things released out of this current batch of cards, there is the Bushwhack Trap. With this, I don't expect big things out of it. A 2-cost landmark isn't that bad of a deal, right? This isn't something like a 4-mana pillar thing that upgrades all of your units. This comes down very quick and early, so it does have potential to really get this stuff going, but it's going to have some and factor to it, right? And so just playing this on the board and then getting summons and delivering vulnerables and having decent combats happen may be enough just out of a Bushwhack Trap. I'm a little concerned that it doesn't stick, right? So this is a landmark that only gets useful every other turn, and you have to play a unit to get the ability. Like, that starts to really kind of stack up into counting against it. But if you have other effects, other abilities that really care about vulnerable, and so if you're having, say, Renekton that needs to get a challenge, or the thing that I kind of like piece around in my head is the stuff that Xerath does, right? So Xerath sees you blow up a landmark, he deals a point of damage somewhere. So if there's a future card that says whenever an opposing unit gains vulnerable, do something. And this can be the engine that activates that, then there's something there. But as it stands right now, I think you'll want to be delivering your vulnerables with rock hoppers and delivering it with that trap master that was just released in this set, using exhausts and the like. So you just have a little bit more agency in what you're actually choosing, and you're actually getting efficient cards out of the matter to where the bushwhack trap just doesn't really generate that, especially since it only works the first time each round. And so you don't have that opportunity to give 2 and 3 of your opponent's units vulnerable, get those really big chains of fantastic combats. And so I don't expect much out of this unless there's other cards to go along with it. It's kind of interesting that it could get generated in a lot of the generate a landmark kind of abilities, but don't have high hopes for it. One that we do have high hopes for is the Towering Pear Ophant. I just saw Parfait the first time I read it. Our ice cream bro running around out here, very strong, very powerful. Ties right into the overwhelmed themes that you kind of get out of Shurima. And so I don't think Ruin Runner is in standard anymore, but the combinations of things like Sivir and Renekton and Ruin Runner, the Towering Parfait, the Overwhelm unit that you use with Kaisa, there's starting to be more and more and more and more valuable overwhelms in Shurima. And as you kind of get to that stance, you can branch away from playing Bone Club Darius. You can branch away from playing things like Blue Gwen, and look to Shurima as your kind of overwhelm of choice faction, because it's just such an incredibly important keyword, right? We drone on and on and on and on about the importance of Overwhelm, Elusive, and Rally in the game of Runeterra. And so as we have these Overwhelm units, it's a very important thing to be running around. And so again, I think this will be a kind of a staple of the Transform decks, just having the questionable, what is this unit? Oops, it's the giant one that just crushes me. Has a lot of power. Being able to flip this thing with spell mana has a lot of power. And so if you can find a spot to where you say, flip this on turn 4 because you had 3 spell mana. Turn 5, you play a Ruin Runner and then get a big Overwhelm attack in or something. There's a lot of potential there. I think this is going to be a bit of a staple, given that, I mean, you can just play it in Alpha Wildclaw form if you want, but it has a lot more going for it than just that. Otherwise, the last one on the list here is going to be the Aurora Halunatus. The intern was just sitting at Riot. He says he goes up to the design team and he says, "Look, I listen to FTP Bust play. That's where I get all my good ideas to run up the flagpole." He has this hick-ass accent and he can't pronounce cards real good. I want to hear him try to pronounce some of this stuff. So let's slam him with the Aurora Hara. He says, "I got it. I got you." He says, "Bust, I know you only have a master's degree, but you talk like a dum-dum." But nonetheless, the Aurora Hall Unatis. Ambush 4, when it's transformed, you summon another one. And a very interesting kind of unit in the sense that, thinking of that kind of sequence again to where we don't play anything the first turn. Turn 2, we play the Waiting in the Weeds. And then turn 3, we ambush one of these units. If your opponent has some kind of slow draw and you're able to just nugget your opponent for 8 on turn 3, that's a fairly powerful thing to be running at them, especially since you don't just have to go all in with it, right? So turn 1, you don't play anything. Turn 2, you play your Waiting in the Weeds face down. And then you have that opportunity to just attack. And so if your opponent played a 2-drop, then you're just going to be like, oh, well, I'm not going to flip this unit. Maybe you do flip the unit because you want to get the trade and get the additional unit out of it. But having those options on the third turn seem incredibly powerful to me. And this bro gets a lot of power out of those kind of things. The other kind of interesting thing with this is we're in the lands of Eternal right now. So here's the curve you're waiting for at Eternal, right? Turn 1, turn 2, you play concurrent timelines. Turn 3, you play a random 3-drop. You choose the Aurora Holonatus off as your flip option. You get whatever bonus you got off your 3-drop, so you have some kind of spell in hand now. And then it just summons another copy of this thing because you got the transform. And so not bad. Not bad right there for this guy. Just add him into the mix of things that you can hit off of hit off of the concurrent timeline. So you get one Halunatus with an equipment, one without. very powerful stuff there. But no, is this card going to be big and playable? I don't know. That's going to be a matter of the strength of Transform in the format, how strong the kit is and everything. But as we talked about Nidalee and the value of spell mana in terms of flipping, I think this unit showcases that fantastically in the sense that we can potentially just flip this on turn 3. Since we had access to the spell mana, it gives that ambush 4 a really high-powered space in the game. And so, exciting stuff. Can't wait to come out here and battle with Nidalee. I'm glad she's not some kind of dumb champion like Seraphine and a bunch of decks that we just won't play with. I kind of memed it up a little bit before the opens got here. Oh, I'm on the wrong account. Crap. I was going to say, I posted my mastery to Twitter and said I'm available for coaching for the Runeterra opens. And I just showed like the bottom end of our mastery, which is like Rise. I think I played like 3 games with Rise. There was Seraphine down there. There was Karma. It's like, as we see Nidalee, immediately go, yep, that's a card Bust will play. Not that bullshit like Rise where you see it and we're just like, that's not for me. Get that nonsense out of here. But all right, enough with that out of the way. Back to the lands of Lucian Taric, and this is one that I'm kind of interested in. And so one of the things I will do on occasion is if we're over at the runeterra.ar, you can just go onto the meta tab. You can switch to Eternal because that's what we're playing. And then you have the option to sort by matches, which is going to be your most common decks in the format. Or you can sort by win rate, which shows you the decks that have the highest win rate. And so you have to take these numbers, with a bit of a grain of salt. As you see Seraphine, Samira running around with 5,000 matches and a 60% win rate, you have a pretty good idea that number is probably fairly accurate. But as you switch over to sorting by win percentage, the matches are much lower. And so seeing Draven Samira with only 500 matches, you don't have nearly as much stats to go on as you would with Samira Seraphine. And so you have to take these with a bit of a grain of salt if you are doing the win rate sort. But somewhere here pretty close to the top was Lucian Taric. And this is where I grabbed the list that we're going to be playing today. It does have a pretty low number of matches associated with it, but I was interested in kind of playing Taric a little bit before the open anyways, and so I wanted to give him a bit of time in the spotlight. And so, if you're not familiar with the Poppy Taric decks of old and what you're really trying to do with Taric these days is basically just play Golden Aegis onto him. And so, with Taric copying the spells, the way that this kind of sequence is going to go is, say it's our turn, we make an open attack, the opponent doesn't get to block or kill anything or whatever, combat ends. Opponent thinks we're done with combating for the round. We cast the Golden Aegis onto Taric, so we get to rally. We attack again. Our attack token is consumed, but Taric's support ability copies the spell onto the unit next to him, so we get that Golden Aegis cast again. We get another rally. We get 3 attacks for the turn. Same thing applies on the opposing attack token. If it's the opposing attack token, we put the Golden Aegis onto Taric. We get the rally. We attack. We copy the Golden Aegis onto the next unit. We get a second attack after that. And so this idea and style of deck has been used for quite a while. I think Mage and Bay popularized this deck maybe about a year ago using Taric and Poppy and this support package coming out of Esmith and cards like War Chefs, Mountain Sojourners deploying this just big chain of plus stats, and then a little bit of a Challengers package coming out of Demacia. It's a deck that as you're playing in a non-interactive format, just does super powerful shit, right? And so if you're looking towards playing against Jax Ornn, it doesn't have a ton of interactivity, and so you tend to be able to develop these really high-powered plays. But if you run up against decks like Annie Katarina that just have 30 removal spells in them, it tends to suffer. And so it's kind of interesting in that sense, but this kind of style has been tried and true for a while. But the things that really drew me to this deck were twofold. Number one, this one is playing Stony Suppressor, which is fantastic against the removal suites that we're seeing these days. The dude that won the EU Open this week was actually playing a triple Stony Suppressor lineup with Petricite Pillars, going the full anti-spell method across the entirety of his lineup, took down the entire event. And so Stony Suppressor in a very interesting space right now. So good against Seraphine and Annie Katarina and all of the the Bandle City based removal decks, to where they're just trying to chain off a bunch of spells. And so the way I describe Stony Suppressor, two separate things. Number one, it's not going to outright win you the game. You may find some kind of spots to where your opponent doesn't have a Disintegrate. They don't have the means to actually take the Stony Suppressor off of the board, and then it does actually sit there and just keep them from winning. But the vast majority of the time, what the Stony Suppressor is going to do is it's just going to combo break your opponent's curve and make them spend like an extra 3 mana across the course of the game. And so your opponent is going to kind of come out and really line up how they want to spend their mana, and you're just going to say, no, you can't do it that way, right? You can't do your Pokey Stick Disintegrate onto our unit because that costs 6 mana now instead of 4, and you might have to direct that towards the Stony Suppressor instead of, say, our Mountain Sojourners, or the remainder of your spells are going to be very expensive. And so it's not a card that you just slap on the board and say, I immediately win. It's a piece of disruption that you're really looking to kind of cancel your opponent's game plan for a few turns to let you build up to your high-powered plays. The other thing with the Stony Suppressor is it really needs some stats. A 1/3 unit isn't particularly impressive. It's basically just a landmark as a 1/3 unit. And so having access to the likes of Esmith, the Darkened Lodestone, the Warchefs, the Mountain Sojourners to put some additional stats on the Stony Suppressor do turn it into a real attacker, and it lets it get into combat and get outside of landmark mode. And so even if you're moving towards a different deck, if you're wanting to play Stony Suppressor somewhere else, I always recommend finding ways to boost its stats. And so if you're playing with Poppy, or if you're playing with Scouts, having Misfortune attacks tied into the Stony Suppressor, some way to where you just don't have a dumb 1/3 on the board, this deck handles that fantastically. The other thing that really caught my eye was I was like, wow, this dum-dum is playing Resplendent Stellacorn. This card is pure garbage. Why would anyone do that? And in my practice games, I have been surprisingly happy with the Stellacorn. It's in a very interesting spot right now, to where if your opponent is trying to develop damage-based plays, so if they're trying to, say, deal damage to your unit this turn and then Ravenous Flock it next turn, it gives you a bit of opportunity to heal through that. It gives you a bit of heal to fight your way through the aggro decks of the format. And it's just become a stat mountain at some point over the course of time, right? I think it used to be like a 4/5 or a 4/6 or something. A 5/6 is a very meaty stat line, especially if we want to consider that if we give it +1/+1, it can now combat a Plaza Guardian and take down a 6/6 in combat if the opponent doesn't have any additional help. And so very interesting there. And so I like a lot of the things going on with this. This deck's architect also including the 3 copies of Chain Vest, which I like quite a bit. I've talked quite a bit about loving Tough in this Eternal format, given how much of the removal is so small. Putting Tough on a Stony Suppressor should just guarantee that it survives the rest of the game. And so a very interesting addition here, especially considering all of our units are so big with the attack boosts we have along the way. And so that's the deck. That's what we're going to be doing battle with today. Let's go ahead and jump on in, see if we can't have some good games. All right, WTF Stellacorn, let's get you into battle. I can't believe it. This is the world that we're living in right now. Old Bust getting into battle with the Resplendent Stellacorn. All right, but starting things off up against Gwen Sejuani, we'll get rid of these champion strengths, keep our early game plays, see if we can't get a nice curve going through here. And so it's kind of an interesting Lucian. He's not a card that you have to be playing on the first turn of the game, right? It's very reasonable to say think of Lucian as a 6-drop that only costs 1 mana, in the sense that you may not play it until the later turns of the game, when you have more of a board presence and a more flip-happy style of board. But I think in this spot I'm going to just go ahead and go for it. If opponent wants to take their turn dropping an Unspeakable Horror onto Lucian, I think that's okay. And then if we do get to put this Esmith boost onto him, he survives against all of the removal in this opposing deck now. And so that worked out pretty good. We're getting this meaty Lucian up and running. Get to continue playing on curve. Get some big shutdowns here with this blocking Badger Bear as well. Say what up to my stats, friend. Welcome them into your home and treat them nicely. Alright, I want to get some of this stuff off of the board. Let's just go ahead and block the Phantom Butler. Our blocking Badger Bear should be safe next turn in the sense that we can give it a single plus attack. Or I'm sorry, a single plus health and have it survive against the Boisterous Host. Then if he wants to come in and play something like Gwen, I think we're just okay with that across the board. And so here, let's start with the War Chef, see if he adds a unit. If he's wanting to, say, play a 2-drop and then sit on a Hate Spike or sit on a Vile Feast or sit on a Troll Chant, we can hopefully just counterspell that with the Stony Suppressor. So that's kind of nasty coming in with the Ancient Yeti. That does dash our plans just a little bit, but we're still going to be coming in and attacking here. We can kind of freely just throw away our Lucian and call it a day on his combats. How do we want to do this? Let's boost the War Chefs just in the event we need to block a Fearsome. I want to have... Oh, no, we messed this up, didn't we? We talked hard about wanting to boost the Badger Bear, then we just didn't give him the stats. Oh, that was nasty. I completely messed this one up. I was thinking in my head that I want to boost the War Chefs, and then I want to make the Suppressor more relevant, and I didn't protect the Badger Bear. That was a definite mistake. But let's see if we've still got enough to fight through this. Say old Bust doesn't give up that easy. Say he's got a champion strength in hand. That might be enough to protect our day. Alright, well, if we're going to champion strength next turn, we got to get this Stony Suppressor off of the board. And so let's send it forth to go ahead and block Gwen. And then we'll see if our champion strength can carry us to victory. It's 8 damage coming out of Esmuth, and so real chance we get to do some strong stuff. The Bone Club comes in. I dig it. Ain't nothing wrong with the Bone Club. I think we're still just stuck attacking. So I definitely want to be putting stats onto Esmuth. Let's do it this way. Let's... That kind of sucks. Like what I was envisioning here is like we have this option now to make the War Chefs a 9 health, which will survive a Gwen. And then it'll get to attack again. So maybe we just send this attack. Keep Lucian at home. Try and deal some damage to the Gwen, and then we'll attack with Lucian on the second one.
To the chase.
This would be so easy if we had our blocking Badger Bear. Dims to break sometimes though.
I will not squander the great gift I've been given.
So he does have to block both of our units in this space. We'll see if he's got that Vile Feast to take the War Chefs down. I don't think we have to worry about it. So we'll send this squad in. Should have to block both of our ground-based units, otherwise he just dies. And then next turn we can maybe get a rally kill off the Golden Aegis. Say aye. Not done yet. Not done yet. No Gwen. No Gwen, please. Foyer. Alright, well, the downside to our board at the moment is Esmuth doesn't have these stats anymore, and so we can go for the Golden Aegis. It's going to be questionable if it's a game winner, though, and so let's see what happens with this Ghastly Band. I suspect he's probably just going to play Gwen, and there's nothing that we can do about that, but we'll see. Okay. On board with that. What else could even happen this round? Oh boy. Oh boy. That can't feel good.
Burn away the shadows.
All right, we got him. Oof. Okay. Still unlocking victory. I love it when we do that. When we say, okay, here's what we need to do. We need to boost our Badger Bear so that it doesn't die in this combat. And then we just neglect to boost our Badger Bear. But hey, that's why I like showing all these videos. I want you all say, oh man, this dumb top 8 at an open last week. I don't know. I don't know about that. I guess if that dumb can do it, maybe I can too. Or at least I can make less mistakes than them. Alright, though. Do as I say, not as I do. Alright, so what do we got happening here? Aspiring Chronomancer coming in. We're up against Lurkers, and so in this space I feel pretty decent throwing a Broadwing in front of the Chronomancer. He has to attack with it this turn, or he doesn't get the Lurk. Our unit's gonna survive, and then there's a ton of just low health units coming out of the Lurk deck, and so there's a pretty good chance that we get a good hook out of the Broadwing if we want it. Perfect draw in the Fleet Feather Tracker. Alright, so I want to boost the Fleet Feather Tracker. This is our new premier unit, capable of blocking a Fearsome if we need it to. Still keeping the 1 health Broadwing around for trading duty on the units like the Xerxes Hatchling. Seems good. Just a Blade Pike, wow.
Don't worry, I am here.
I don't have much desire to get into combat with him this turn, but we can battle next round. Rip Bird. I think that's okay. We got more birds hanging out. I wonder if this is going to be an interesting spot for the Stony Suppressor. There's typically not a lot of spells coming out of the Lurk deck. Sometimes they play Ruthless Predators like we just saw, but a lot of times they don't have any spells whatsoever. I think we still want to get the Suppressor on board. You don't need to Chain Vest in this combat. I mean, we can Chain Vest the Taric to lock in the Tufts, which could be a thing. Maybe I'm okay with that. It's very odd that he's just not playing spells, though. We'll wait. I think we'll still just get good enough attacks this round. Okay, so let's put permanent boost onto Taric. I want Taric to boost this thing. Get you out here. War Chefs, please. Thank you. We need the 3 attack unit to come in and hook Pike. Everybody else gets to attack. We'll send the 1 health challenge into the Hatchling.
Never submit.
Eat up, friend.
What you got for us now? Bone Skewer. Okay.
Something strong for you.
Still pretty reasonable board we got here. The big thing with him putting Pike on top of his deck is he didn't have the Ripjaw Swarm, whatever the free attack thing is, to convert Pike into death from below. So I feel pretty safe at this point. Now the game should just be dunsies. The Golden Aegeus giving us that double rally we were talking about. Taric, close to flipping as well.
I'll take my share.
Alright, damage dealt. Is never getting in front of him.
Feel the sizzle.
Let's feel the sizzle, bro.
Unyielding.
So again, we get the rally off of the Taric. The Taric gonna die to fucking death from below. Yeah. I had like the value thought immediately land in my head to where it's like, all right, well, we're gonna be doing a challenge. We need to give our unit barrier, and that was not quite the case. I think we're okay with this bone skewer popping off, right? He doesn't just kill our team. I still don't understand how the pike interaction works. So he struck some stuff, but we had barriers. Is that how that worked? I don't know. It seems fine. I don't know, man. Seems like we might have won that one. Alright, GG. Whew. We are putting on a clinic today and not knowing how to play the game. Hey, GG. Putting on the clinic. So I hope you're here to learn what not to do today. I can tell you something positive. I can tell you something to do real good. I went to a neighbor's house for dinner last night. They had a Taco Tuesday. Now, I've never been like, whoa, this food is so good, you got to go and try it out. But like I never knew tortillas could be so good. It's like you go to the grocery store and buy whatever tortillas, or you go to Chipotle or whatever they have them, or you go to, whatever Tex-Mex place down the street. Everybody's tortillas in my mind have always just been kind of the same. But I saw maybe like a month or two ago that one of the Kansas City tortilla makers won a James Beard Award, or they got nominated for a James Beard Award for their tortillas. And it's like, you read it and you're just like, that's fucking nonsense. Nobody wants to give fucking awards to tortillas. But oh my god, that shit was fucking choice. I've never really had like the foodie gene or been like, whoa, you gotta try out this snack. But
Where's my axe?
I can tell you wholeheartedly that shit was choice. So props to those people. It's weird. It's weird with the awards like that. Like whenever you think of Kansas City, you're just like, all those people do barbecue. That's all that they ever do. But there was that tortilla place that won the James Beard Award, and then there's out in the suburbs there's a bar that won the, I don't know, best bar award from the James Beard land. I haven't had the chance to go there. You run into the problem of being like, once they win, it's just like the lines are out the door. And I mean, I'm not opposed to just going to the bar at like 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, but if that's what you're looking to accomplish, that's kind of when you got to go. So it's tough. At any rate, I was curious if we played the blocking Badger Bear, if opponent would actually attack with their Misfortune. They were willing to, and so we didn't have the time to get our Chain Vest onto the Badger Bear. A little unfortunate for it, but if he starts to come at us with like Make It Rains or whatever, we now have the Chain Vest to potentially stand in front of it. Looks like that might be what's happening. He played a spell and then pulled it back. Alright, let's bring in the heat. Protection granted. Make It Rain will not be raining on us. All right, need something to do though. This triple rally isn't very spectacular in terms of getting dudes on the board, and so I'm a little worried in that sense. We gotta find a way to shine.
Nice to meet you. I'm Isla.
Stony Suppressor says I'm here to block. What's our Lucian at? Currently leveled to 0. Ugh. That man, seeing this Relentless Pursuit in hand, there was a time where in the middle of this combat, we could just play Relentless Pursuit and rally and attack right back after we block. That's one of the things I'm sad about playing Expedition during that time. he didn't get to do nonsense like that. But I don't know if we would have loved it or hated it, but you certainly can't do it. All right, we made a block. We got the misfortune off the board. We got to come in and just start doing something. And I can't just pass into next turn with the 3 banks. So we'll go ahead and take this rally. Not a very good one. It's just going to give Lucian a +1/+1 and take wings in the wave off of the board. But I don't think we can just like sit here forever. We need something to start rolling. If we pick up a expensive thing like a Stellacorn or something, this is still okay. Mountain Sojourner is quite good.
Right.
So that Relentless Pursuit this turn would have looked pretty good, but if we would have drawn literally any other card in our deck, we would have been happy with that rally, I think.
Never lost a fair game. Or played hold it, partner.
No room for doubt.
Continue on, Lucian. Show him how to battle. Nice, getting blocks. I like seeing that. Opponent should struggle to get width here, and so I think that's good. Now champion strength.
Well, well.
All right, Mountain Sojourners.
Work for me.
You're not still mad about that.
It's time to
are you?
pop.
Keep up, keep up.
Get the chance to attack.
Just a little farther.
I dig it.
Everyone okay?
Give me all them stats.
You can't do this.
You're bluffing.
Just blocking everything. I don't know. I don't know how Pirates wins the game if you're gonna be tossing your units away like this. The strategy we typically look for in this space is he just kind of needs to take all the damage and then get as much width as he can. All right, he's not getting good combats here. So if you have 6 units on the board because you didn't take any blocks in the previous couple of turns, you can crash in for 4 or 6 damage, and then you're in that space to where like maybe you get to kill with a decimate plus a make it rain or something. I think at this stage it's gonna be pretty tough for opponent to actually do anything. I guess Zap is gonna hit us for a couple points here, but ultimately not super concerned about it. Maybe we should be. Maybe we should be. But he did just pirouette, so. 1 mana short. I was looking at this like, ooh, we can get the suppressor all the stats, but can't play our spell that way. All right, let's zoom in. Let's boom him. Opponent says that's too much. You boomed me too hard, Bust.
Put to rest.
Y'all want to hear anything else about tasty tortillas? Sure, it's so good. Talking about it the next day, man. That's how good them tortillas were. Telling everybody on the YouTube. All right, back into the action though. Reasonable enough start up against Jayce Lux. This is one of these spots to where I don't think we want to play Lucian on the first turn. The removal suite that you get out of Jayce Lux isn't particularly good at taking him down on the first turn, but all of their units are very good at blocking him. And I just kind of envision this space to where we're going to get something decent out of this Chain Vest. And so it's like we're going to War Chefs into Badger Bear. His Shock Blasts don't look very good now, but he can play something like Assembly Line, which would be kind of problematic, but the Shock Blast not nearly as much. Badger Bears. I don't know if I should have expected that one or not. See if he's got that combat trick. Does. We got zinged real hard on that one. We played standard? It feels like I had to stop and think if these cards are even in Eternal.
Come on, people. Let's make tomorrow today.
Smell that?
Alright, well,
A fight's a
we'll
cooking.
block. Gonna be looking to build into this Lucian a few turns from now. Let's pause and see what happens. Like, we're lined up fine to block both of these Forge Chefs, but
Can you stomach this?
what are we gonna run into? It's like you clearly have some kind of plan behind this, right? I can't imagine this deck plays Caustic Riff. Maybe it does. I mean, if he plays Caustic Riff, we're gonna get zinged pretty hard. Just for a single combat. Interesting. Okay.
Let's go, people.
More champion strength. Alright, well, that's what we've got to build towards. We'll drop it 2 turns from now. So we definitely want to do our best to not lose any units here. Not going to attack with the War Chefs to potentially trade with the Forge Chief. We just got to build up as much as we can.
There's a chill in the air. Bring in the heat.
Not on my work site, bub.
Okay. And Taric turns up.
Nothing beats field testing.
We went quick attack. Interesting. Why would you go quick attack? Maybe we can just ignore Jayce. Take it. Push your attack in the middle.
Their guilt is evident.
So this will probably take down Lucian. That's not the end of the world.
Stand in judgment. You have no alibi.
The opts for the value attack. Okay. Still interesting he didn't attack with Jayce. I'm curious the thinking behind that one. How bad could this be? Can't be a Shock Blast, right? Could be a Hex Obliterator to kill something. My God, it's gonna be a double removal? Come on. Merlin casting all the spells on us. Oh, that's savage. That's savage. I don't know, man. Like, just playing Stellacorn here doesn't seem very good. Still got that Badger Bear, though. Ready to strike. While the iron is hot. Or something like that. And another removal? God damn, son. Alright. Taric, you're so expensive, dude.
Use of tech.
Oh my god, what a top deck.
Little help.
What a top deck. This is tough. Like, I think we're stuck with the Stellacorn. We can at least play another unit next turn if the Stellacorn comes down. Maybe it's just too far away to champion strength, though. Like, if we spend our champion strength and use it to just kill 2 Forge Workers, like, that sounds horrible. Right, so if we play the Stellacorn here, it gives us a chance to draw 1, a 2, or a 3 next turn, get the champion strength onto 2 units. Just doesn't sound like a winning play to me. All right, this game's done. Ooh, that was brutal. Just the big flurry of you can typically get away with against this deck to say like, well, okay, their removal's all at slow speed. It's for the most part things like Shock Blast and Thermogenic Beams, and then their fast speed removal is typically just Mystic Shots and the like. But having the Hex Obliterator come in, it's not something I'll typically play around. All right, into the next one, though. Up against Seraphine, Samira, the Ezreal version. I'm going to get rid of these Fleet Feather Trackers. They just don't do enough in the early game. And then we're gonna look to use the chain vest into the stony suppressor. See how that goes.
Take the shot or lose the chance.
Samira comes in. Opponent will probably pass here. You usually don't attack once you get the Samira on the board. Happy enough to see it though. So we'll get the chance to start playing stuff. Gonna add in the bird. Gonna add in Lucian. And then next turn we're gonna open with Stony Suppressor. Let's try and mess up their manas as much as we can. And we still have this chain vest should we need it. I don't want the chain vest to get really invested in not Stony Suppressor, right? I'm fine with chain vest landing on her. These are okay. Do we even want to bother with Lucian this turn? Probably not. Let's just take our bank. I don't want him running Samira into Lucian and just getting that free hit there when we have such a good round coming up, especially with the War Chef into Sojourner about to happen.
Hope they're watching.
I'm going to go ahead and Chain Vest. He's clearly up to some kind of shenanigan hooking in the Stony Suppressor. The downside to this play is if he has Ravenous Flock, he's still going to be able to get the kill. But any of the other plays he'd be looking for to target down the Stony Suppressor just shouldn't work. So
Don't get in my
hopefully
way.
she's still safe here in this space. She's not dying to Mystic Shots or whatever.
Flavor and spice.
I have to think she's okay, right? If he had the Ravenous Flock, he would have just flocked the Stony Suppressor, not done anything to Lucian.
No breaks till the next flip top.
Alright. There's the flock. Such weird sequencing. We'll take it though. We're getting pretty high powered on this board.
Keep going. Hold tight.
Which is very strange. He just drew the flock this turn. I didn't see exactly where it came out of his hand, but he had to have just drawn it. Let's see if that disintegrates coming in. Fleet Feather Tracker got scary real fast, but it's the basically the worst of our units on the board. Okay, I dig it. I was about to say, is somebody going to deliver me a rally? It's not exactly the rally we were looking for. I was hoping for one a little bit cheaper, but hopefully it gets the job done. I'm looking to just open attack next turn. See what opponent does in terms of spells. If we don't, if he has a way to kill the Mountain Sojourners this turn, it looks like he's trying to.
Oathbreaker.
Indeed.
He's trying to Ravenous Flock on the Sojourners, and we might consider not opening, but we have a lethal attack as it stands. Right, we're opening for 12. More chains of fun coming through. Okay. So the downside to playing Champion Strength is if he's got like another Pirouette and locks us down to one unit, it's going to leave us in a pretty dicey spot. Might just be stuck going for it now. A day late and a dollar short, Golden Aegeus. You could have done a lot of work last turn. Oh my gosh, we just have it all, huh? What's this gonna be? Yeah. Well. Get in there, War Chef. I wonder if he blocks with both units or if he actually falls to 4. Feels pretty good. If like we're with Badger Bear, Golden Aegeus against random one card in their hand, like their random one card can be pretty scary if they're like her dirt, sputtering song spinner. But I don't know, man. It feels like a reasonable spot for us to be in. Yep. Yep. Okay, it's a dude, sure thing. Getting time before the Badger Bear comes in. Well, I guess the Badger Bears would actually be stuck trading with this Niandroid. That kind of sucks. Oh, you're stopping at 3-4? He has one more created card in hand. So he can definitely augment it this turn. He can play Flare as well. Interesting. Let's do this. Let's just start off with the Badger Bear. Like I don't know. Maybe he just doesn't understand that he can do stuff with this Niandroid. Yeah. Okay.
Lights, stage, amp. All right, let's
Ugh, that dumb deck. Alrighty, we'll get one more in. That's rough. It's just like to see the angles come in like that are kind of frustrating, but it is what it is at the end of the day. Alright, back to our favorite deck in the world. From one RNG Wonderland directly into the next one. Let's see what we can do against the Lurk deck. RNG Wonderlands, where these people love to live. It's right next to the lottery ticket store. Right next to it.
No room for doubt.
You say Bust was at such a high point today, talking about tortillas, and then he had to play against Seraphine, really ground him the wrong way. Call the pack, sure. So, can't quite remember how all this works. Like if he just predicted and missed and then called the pack, you typically he hit Rek'Sai there. I think there's nothing too crazy about that. It's just weird seeing the predict happen and then seeing the predict happen and then other stuff happen after it. Right? It's not like he just put a lurker on top after he predicted. It's very strange. Alright, and it's about to be Stellacorn time, isn't it? Heal up the old Broadwing, get us ready for some good attacks. I dig it. You're not long for this world, Lucian, but you're certainly not the most important unit on the board. Neither are you. So I guess it's cool to see it go down that way. Alright, get these big Stellacorn attacks in. I'm feeling it. Feeling it. Nothing wrong with getting the big bruiser on board. Strikes me better as Sojourners. We don't have any support units at the moment. Like if he plays a big 3/6 this turn, the 3/6 Lurk or something, we may not actually get into combat. Pike. Alright. A big C. Not big enough to combat the Sojourners. Exactly what his size is. How we doing this? So awkward with this Stony Suppressor on the board. We can champion Strength next turn, but we can't play any more cards if that's what we want to do. I think we just have to get away from that idea. Let's just pass. He really misses Lurk. Well, it sucks for you. I don't know. It's hard to feel bad for them in the sense that they did predict and then do other stuff. Maybe they're just like on the ultimate Lurk low roll or something, but have to feel like they had other options and just didn't take them. But picked up a support. We'll get the Sojourners down. As long as we don't run into a Bone Skewer or something, we should be pretty strong for the turn. I think we're in that pretty strong space.
Keep going. Everyone okay?
All right, here comes the squad. Wonder if we shouldn't have attacked with the Stony Suppressor. I was gonna say this Pike block. Pike's not big enough to be scary, but we're just kind of throwing this away for nothing. All right, Stellacorns, we're ready for you to do the work. Goes, call the pack. Doesn't pick up any ones. Okay.
You always were good at killing.
How did this land? He's got 5 power. It's just gonna kill everything. If we chain vest the one on the left, he's gonna deal 4 and 4, and then if we put the thing on the one on the right, it's just gonna die. Okay, GG. We slopped that one up a little bit, but nonetheless, we could pull this deck up, talk about it just a little bit more. And so, again, I like some of the concepts that come out of this. I like that the whole Esmith and Taric and support package along with the Golden Aegisuses, that's all well and good. We did run into some games today to where the Stony Suppressor did really mess with our ideals and what was actually going to be good. And so that was a bit unfortunate. And I'm curious at like looking at a deck like this in the sense that what are you trying to be good against, right? And so if you're trying to be good against the Seraphine decks, then you don't want to play a lot of the concepts that we have going on here, right? You don't want to be playing Lucian. You don't really want to be playing Fleet Feather Tracker. The like Stony Suppressor path is kind of good and well, but this isn't like a strategy that attacks a Seraphine deck very well. And so like there's that piece of it, and then if you're trying to say, well, we're going to be good against Jax Ornn, like we want to be good against the decks that put units on the board and don't interact very well. So decks like Jax Ornn, decks like Jax Vi Concurrent Timelines, those style of things that are just trying to kill you with stats, then you don't want the Stony Suppressor. And so it feels like this deck, to me at least, has a little bit of problem with trying to half-ass things instead of just trying to like really whole ass being good at this support package, right? That's what you get out of the Fleet Feather Tracker plus Stony Suppressor, or the Fleet Feather Tracker plus the Petricite Broadwing into all of the supports into the Taric package. But the other cards we have don't necessarily play into that as well. And so I'm trying to imagine to myself, like, why are we playing Lucian when we could play Poppy? Why are we playing the Stony Suppressor Lucian when we're trying like against the likes of Seraphine? And it's just like the numbers feel weird to me. And so I'm not entirely sold on playing this exact version. We did actually run with like a Taric Elusives deck a few videos ago, running a lot of the same concepts, right? But not playing Champion Strength, playing Golden Aegis and Relentless Pursuit, and then focusing in on elusives. But I don't get it. I don't get why we're playing Stony Suppressor and Lucian in the same deck. If that, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't line up. And so maybe this is what the guy took to the finals of the EU Open. I haven't actually seen the EU deck list, so I don't know if this was his list in particular, but I'm pretty sure he was playing pillars in every deck, and that makes sense to me, right? If we're coming out here and we're playing this kind of Poppy Taric deck, but we don't have Lucian in here just fucking around, and then we have this really high-powered early game combat style deck, and then we like drop Petricite pillars and stuff, that makes sense to me. But this particular list, it feels like it's doing a bit of half-assing. And some of these numbers really need tuned. And so, at the end of the day, good stuff. I had fun with those battles. I hope you did too, because that is going to do it for us today. And so, hope everyone enjoyed the video. Hope you maybe learned a thing or two along the way, and you had a good time watching. So, this is Bust, and we thank you for being here.